Yo, yo, yo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CT Gaming Lab. We are here today covering a few demos I've played in the past few weeks on Steam. I love that Steam supports demos, and I think events like Steam Next Fest are a great way to help smaller studios to market their games. That being said, let's dive into 5 games you may be interested in. First up, we have Echoes of Aincrad, which is a brand new single player action JRPG. It is the newest attempt to recreate the world of popular anime Sword Art Online. What makes Echoes of Aincrad different from other SAO games is that in this game, you create your own character that has their own story, separate from but in parallel to the events of the anime. In the anime, Sword Art Online is a VR MMO where 10,000 players get stuck in the game. And if they die in the game, they die in real life. Their goal is to complete the game by conquering all 100 floors of the castle of Aincrad. In the game Echoes of Aincrad, the story takes place just on the first 2 floors, and those floors are expanded upon further than they had been in any other rendition of Aincrad. From my 2 hours playing in the demo version of the game, I was left with mixed feelings, and I'll explain why. The demo starts you out in a dungeon. There's no character creator, and you're pretty much dropped right into the tutorial. The beginning section was way longer than I expected. On one hand, the dungeon felt the way a dungeon should feel in the sense that it took a long time to complete, which was around 30 to 45 minutes. But on the other hand, the entire dungeon was very linear in design and had no interactivity beyond running in a straight line for 10 to 15 seconds until you one shot 3 to 4 enemies. You kind of rinse and repeat through some generic dialogue with some NPCs until finally getting to the end boss fight. When I say dialogue, there's dialogue, but the playable character is actually voiceless and only communicates with nods and head shakes. This is something that I've never really been a fan of in certain JRPGs, as it really takes away from the feeling of immersion, in my opinion. After completing the dungeon with a new friendly player you meet along the way, you travel to the town of beginnings, the iconic starting town of the world of Aincrad. In the town, you follow around Iori, which is the player you meet in the dungeon, and he shows you your room at the end. Some merchants around the town, the blacksmith where you craft and upgrade weapons, and where to find quests. It was at this point where I thought to myself, finally, they'll let go of my hand and I'll be able to go explore the world of Aincrad like I've always wanted to since watching the original show. But nope, Iori wants to taxi you along other guiding questing experiences, but in a more open world setting. Without getting too long winded, my thoughts were mixed on this game because I felt like the game had the right vision, but had poor execution. Echoes of Aincrad has the ambiance from the show down pretty good. The UI is unmistakably iconic from the show, and the combat and crafting systems seem to be true to source material as well. You gain experience with certain weapons by using them more, and by leveling up, you gain new skills to use with those weapons. The combat seems like it has potential down the road once the difficulty picks up and you unlock those new skills. The main issue I had with this demo was the excessive handholding and tutorial bloat that ultimately led me dropping out around the 2.5 hour mark. When I went online to look at other player experiences, this seemed to be a common dissatisfaction. Aesthetically, the game is like a dream come true for fans of the Sword Art Online world. However, with a $70 asking price and outdated quest design, it's hard to justify a purchase. That being said, as an SAO fan, this game still seems worth keeping an eye on in regard to potential updates and discounted prices. Next, we have MineGeon Renegades. It is a 2D retro-esque sci-fi roguelite. You can play solo, but the game does seem like it was meant to be played co-op. In MineGeon, you play as treasure hunters that crash land on the planet Pymo after stealing a ship and running from the authorities. You descend down the depths of Pymo, hunting for resources to upgrade your base and your gear to help you get farther and farther. At the start, you choose to play as one of 3 renegades, the DPS, support, or tank. During my time with the demo, I played the tank and my friend played as the support. Every character has their own unique ability, and upgrades seem to be same across all characters. Defeating enemies drops experience points, and upon leveling up, you get 3 upgrade options. Upgrades in this game are generally more interesting and situational than just a standard stat increase. For example, you can get upgrades that make your dash leave behind a fire trail or lightning rods. During each run, you select a path to go down. Each path has 4 levels that you may want to tackle in a particular order. So for example, you may want to go down a path that has a shop if you have acquired a large amount of spending money, or you may want to choose a path where you can get a sci-fi high firepower weapon. Within each level, there are mineral deposits scattered around, and you have a little robot pod buddy that carries these materials for you, and once his inventory is full, you can send some back on extraction pods that are randomly found around the levels. These minerals are essential upgrade materials for your spaceship, and unlocks are made available as you level up your ship. Upgrades on your ship give you better chances of getting farther on future runs, such as a revive syringe or an attribute station to improve your base stats. Overall, I had a very positive experience with this game. The enemies do a lot of damage, but damage is very easily avoided if you're careful. New weapons and upgrades feel substantial, and I imagine there will be a lot more variety on the game's full release. MineGeon Renegades is slated to be released this year on 2026 on July 28th. Next on our list is Ascenders Beyond the Peak. Ascenders is a single-player turn-based roguelite with an exploration theme. You assemble your team of mountain climbers and daring adventurers to traverse harsh mountains in search of powerful ancient artifacts. After the tutorial run, you start each expedition in your home base where you hire, upgrade, heal, and gear up your climbers. Once you have your team and equipment, you are sent out into the wilderness to gather artifacts or die trying. The mechanics shown during the demo were simple to understand and easy to learn, and I imagine in the full game release there will be more complex mechanics and difficulties. Climbing the mountain is performed in turns, where you directly control where each person moves in a tile based system. Each turn, your climbers generally have one action point, which they can use to do things such as pulling another climber to them, gathering resources, attacking enemies, or mining a mountain tile. Expeditions are broken up into segments of climbing and story beats. In between segments, your climbers camp at night and can choose to look for supplies, cook, craft gear, or sleep. Each climber has a different class, and at full release, there will be 9 different classes, all with their own unique abilities. All climbers also come with their own set of individual strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, my scout is part of the scout class, which means he has low stamina but high mobility, and he is afraid of the dark and is a cook. So, since he is afraid of the dark, he has a 10% chance of gaining a negative effect during the night. And since he is a cook, he doesn't gain fatigue when assigned to cook at night. Overall, climbing in the game is engaging. It has its high tension moments where you are close to running out of stamina or even forced to cut out a climber and sacrifice them to survive the climb. When it comes to story, I enjoyed finding the lost expedition group in the tutorial. Afterwards, it expands a little into the finding artifacts part of the game. I think that for the full release, I would like to see more banter and interaction between climbers at camp. Right now, it does seem like the climbers are all randomly generated with random traits, which is fine, but I think the game could do with some handcrafted climbers with some more in depth dialogue and lore along with the randomly generated ones. This could play into caring more about your climbers and adding replayability to the game. For example, you may want to start a new save if you lose a climber with an interesting story, or even better yet, if a unique climber falls, they don't necessarily die, but they are sent far down a pool of climbers you can hire for a while. Well, they miraculously survive, and you can hire them again for a unique interaction about how they survived the fall. Overall, I enjoyed my short time with Ascenders Beyond the Peak. It's definitely something I'll keep my eye on for its early access release this year, 2026 in quarter 3. Let's move away from the action games for a bit and enter the world of ridiculous fun. BOMBANANA by Lepto Studio is a silly, chaotic, rage-inducing game about defusing bombs. You play with 2 friends as a 3-man monkey bomb defusal squad. The caveat is that the members on your team are either blind, deaf, or mute. Now, it's highly recommended to play with the in-game voice chat to get the proper experience. In the limited amount of time, you have to figure out how to defuse the bomb with limited communication, and the game was so fun and hilariously frustrating. I had a small group of friends alternate around the different roles, and eventually we were able to complete the demo and all the levels in it. Before starting a level, you each pick a monkey to play as. The mute monkey has the instruction manual, the blind one is diffusing, and the deaf monkey is in between looking at the control panel and giving verbal instructions to the other 2. The mute monkey has to communicate to the deaf monkey by using hand signals, and the deaf monkey has to relay those instructions to the blind monkey. To give an example of the ridiculousness of the game, there was no way to signal the number 0 for some reason, so my friends and I found a unique solution by flipping the bird as the new 0. Each new level unlocks a more difficult one than the last, adding new puzzles that take longer to solve. It took my friends and I a few hours to complete the demo, and I can definitely see this game being a fun party game to play with friends and family. I look forward to seeing more levels being added, and I would actually be interested if they could figure out a way to shift the roles of the monkeys around. After you beat the game, it would be so funny if you unlocked a new game mode where they shifted the blind monkey to the instruction manual, the mute monkey to communicate, and the deaf monkey to diffuse. That being said, BOMBANANA is slated to release this year in August 2026. Last on our list for today, we have the game I was most looking forward to playing from the ones in this video, Mortal Shell 2. Mortal Shell 2 is an upcoming standalone action RPG from Cold Symmetry. I actually played the first Mortal Shell back in 2021. I was on a Souls-like kick back then, but the first game failed to meet the same thrills of playing a classic Souls game or even some other Souls-likes. The world and environmental atmosphere was interesting, but the combat in the first game was clunky and unpolished. That being said, the demo of Mortal Shell 2 was monumentally better than the first game. First off, the game was extremely well optimized and looked amazing. I really appreciated that this game seems to lean a bit heavier on the lore and storytelling, putting it more in your face and less off the beaten path for you to find like other Souls-likes. The atmosphere of the game was dark and gritty, but it still offered bright, colorful vistas as well as murky caves and swamps to add variety to the game's environs. And speaking of variety in the game, Mortal Shell 2 is a big step up from the first installment. There is a ton of enemy and creature variety, and in terms of gameplay, they of course have a large variety of shells to pick from. In Mortal Shell 2, there will be a total of 9 shells you can find and equip. For those who are unfamiliar with the shell mechanic, you can think of the shells almost like different characters with different unique abilities and stats. For example, the first shell you play with in the beginning of the game is named Haros the Vassal. He is a melee-focused shell that excels at getting up close and personal with enemies. He has the Petrification ability, which hardens enemies around him, allowing him to hit them to increase their break meter. Once an enemy's break meter is maxed out, you can perform a powerful riposte critical attack. Each shell also has their own unique seals, which offer even more combat tools. Haros has 2 seals, one which allows him to guard, and potentially perfect guard against attacks, and the other which hardens him and turns him into stone. With the Untarnished seal, Haros is able to deflect attacks, which deals break damage to enemies. With Vatra's seal, he is able to harden himself, negating all damage, and if timed correctly, it deals break damage to the enemy hitting him. Haros' main weapon is a 2-handed sword, and he comes with a ranged explosive sidearm. If there wasn't enough variety in the game for you yet, yes, Haros has a gun. Like I mentioned earlier, Mortal Shell 2 is confirmed to have 9 shells on release, all with different playstyles. Overall, my experience with Mortal Shell 2 was very positive. The only negative I had with my time was that I felt like the early boss fights were a little bit too easy. I played the demo up until I made it to the main hub area and stopped playing shortly after to save my experience for the full game release. I can only assume that the bosses were only easy since they were probably meant to be tutorial bosses, and I look forward to seeing what challenges await later in the game. I definitely will keep this game on my radar as Mortal Shell 2 releases soon on August 20th, 2026. And that about wraps up our video with the 5 game demos I think you should check out. I absolutely love that we are starting to get more demos in gaming again. I think they are a great way for players to truly get a sense of if they like a game. While Steam has a 2-hour return window, which many people use as a demo, sometimes 2 hours isn't enough to get a full grasp on if a game is for you. That being said, let me know what demos you all enjoyed, if you are interested in any of the ones I showed here, and if you have any recommendations for me. I'm always open to trying out new games. Thank you all for watching, drink some water, stay hydrated, and I will see you all in the next one.